Hi guys, my name is Mia and I am the student president for the SPC Net Impact chapter. I'm here today with Ken Cunningham and Dr. Grinnell, and we're here to share the Sustainable Student Series with you. So the Sustainable Student Series is going to be a series of 4 weeks of workshops, video tutorials, and challenges to help students connect over positive collective action together. Today, I'm going to be sharing substance from scraps. I'm going to be sharing how to DIY a scrap food garden with upcycled planters. All right. So I saw this and posted this in our group a couple weeks ago, these really cute pictures of hanging planters. And I've had a couple of laundry detergent bottles in my laundry room hanging around waiting for a good project. And Dr. G had mentioned that she was wondering something she could do with her wire hangers. So I thought this might be a fun project to help students take trash, which if we look at our waste stream, we've got about 40% of our waste stream is organics. So we can take that organic trash directly out of the waste stream and we can put it into a compost, or we can even take some of those food scraps and turn them right back around into food. So we can help get those organics out of the waste stream and turn that trash into food and money and substance and compost. Who doesn't love compost? All right, so let's make our planters. So to make your planters, you're gonna need empty plastic bottles. I've seen this done with the laundry bottles, but also with like bleach containers, milk jugs, really any kind of jug with a screw-on lid. Something like that even is fine. And then dirt, compost, or even just water. A lot of food scraps, you can start growing them from water. So you don't have to invest in buying anything. Go out there and grab some of the sand in your yard to put on the base. You're good to go. If you're lucky enough to have already been composting, then you'll have some black gold in your backyard that you can stick in your planter and grow some food really fast and effectively. You'll also want to dig around for some food scraps. I'll give you a list of things that'll work great a little later. And then paint, markers, some decorations for your containers. And then if you've got some wire hangers around or some twine or old rope, we can use that to hang them. So first you're going to want to clean and prep your planters, right? So I pulled out my laundry bottles, cut off the bottom with a razor blade, and then just rinsed them all out really good to get all of the soap and the bleach out of them. Then you're gonna want to sketch your designs out and draw in the details with your paint or your markers. And I used acetone and Q-tips just as a little trick from having tried this myself for you. When your markers get messy, acetone cleans it up. So I was able to go back and put in little details and make it really fun. All right, and then next you're going to fill your planters up with your compost or your dirt, or even, again, just a little bit of water inside the bottom of your container and get them rooted and get them started is fine. And then next you're going to want to get them ready to hang. So I used a drill and we just drilled a hole right into the plastic and then used the twine, or that's where you can use your wire cutters, clip the hanger and insert your hanger right into the holes and crimp it up, and bam, you've got a hanger ready to go for your planters. So you can use twine, wire hangers, ropes. I saw some cool t-shirt braids, or even macrame to make your potters or your planters hang. And now it's time for the fun part. Let's turn our scraps into substance. So I cut down, what I had in my fridge at the time was some leftover celery that was getting old, some green onions, some lettuce, and a pineapple. So I cut everything off and put them down in my compost, put some leaf mulch over them so they're all ready to get growing in there. You can do pineapples, potatoes, onions, peppers are really easy. You can take a pepper, slice it right in half and sit it right in the dirt and grow food straight from it. Same with tomato, which I've done successfully a couple of times, is cut a tomato in half, throw it in the dirt. Now that does work better if you're using organic food, because not all non-organic food can reproduce. So, but yeah, so even, oh yeah, and garlic, aloe, you're able to regrow a lot of fun stuff from your trash. So don't be afraid to dig in there and try some things, and throw them in a container. And then when you make your new upcycled planter with your scrap food garden, share a pic and a story on social media, where I'm going to be sharing mine using hashtag substance from scraps. So we can all see what each other made, share our success stories, and get excited about diverting some trash from our waste stream. Awesome. So next up is Ken Cunningham, another member of Net Impact, who's going to share with us today on vermiculture and composting. Take it off, Ken. It's all yours.
Okay. Well, one of the methods I like to talk about is the composting. We're using hot composting, which I like because it's a little bit faster than cold composting. The difference between the two is your cold composting, you might let your stuff just naturally decay for maybe a year or so. But with this hot composting method, we're getting our stuff done within basically within a month. We're breaking down everything really rapid at a rapid pace. And so this picture that you see with the coffee can is full of basically what's finished compost. You can see how rich it is. And a month ago, it was a newspaper, it was an Amazon box, it was some vegetable ends. And so we turn it every other day to get the aeration. You want a lot of oxygen to flow through your compost pile. And especially same thing with your worm bin. You want oxygen to flow. You want to aerate everything. And that's where this hot composting method comes into play, is because you get to really infuse it with oxygen and rapidly break down material for either the worms or the compost pile. And this is like also in the picture, you'll notice that we have like a thermostat. We want to keep an eye on the temperature of the compost pile. Usually when it's really hot and active, it'll like stay hot for maybe 130 degrees or 125, 130 degrees Fahrenheit for about 3 days. I mean, that's my hot water tank is probably set on like 119. And so it's some interesting things about compost pile. We'll see like the next picture, I'll have like a picture of like the backyard. Actually, I can show you, can do live screen. And I'll show you like my backyard composting method. And when we say with vermiculture, the vermicomposting process, we use red wigglers. And the red wiggler worm is a lot different than your regular earthworm. Your earthworm is not gonna break down things like red wigglers will. I get those from Uncle Jim's worms off Amazon, basically. So these are things that you can do in your own backyard. And here's a picture of like my backyard pile, the compost pile in the back. And a good pile would be at least this size. We're talking about, it's quite a bit. But I mean, a lot of the worms live in here. And just like some of the stuff that Mia was talking about throwing away, you can put all those things in your compost pile. And we're going to use gray water. So when we feed the compost pile where the worms are living, I have some that's living in the house where we're going to make a worm bin, a simple worm bin. This is a clear one with a security camera. You can make this and you can see like some of the worms, all the lights are the worms there eating, and you can see them kind of like under the dirt. It's probably about, that's a tub about half filled with compost, probably about 10 inches of compost in it. And the worms love it because they make their bed in the cardboard. We use dryer lint. That's another thing that goes in. You use so much stuff that you normally would throw away, and you can put it in your compost pile, like all your dryer lint, Or your water, non-chlorinated water. You don't want to put chlorinated water. We don't use any kind of drinking water in our compost pile or in the bin. The worms don't like the chlorination. So basically, if you can drink it, what's it doing in the compost pile? It shouldn't be there. You
Hey
can.
Ken, what
Uh-huh.
about those mailers like coupon mailers?
Some of them, if it's a waxy filling paper, we don't want to use it. We don't want to use the wax paper. It's just not going to break down very good. This is some of the stuff that you can, excuse me, that you can just send to the landfill because it has so much plastic on it. It's just going to peel away. It's just not going to break down in the compost pile or the worm bin. They're not going to like it. They will eat some plastics, but that's just a bit much. And so some of the papers that you like, some of the papers that you get, like especially the coupon papers with the wax, you can't use that stuff. But when we know these things, we know like for our flyers, then we know that we can print flyers that are more compostable because that's an important thing. A lot of the inks today use soy-based inks, which is okay. Like some of those things are pretty good. You'll fill the paper and basically if you can put it in some water and it'll absorb some of the water, then it's good to like have in our pile. But some stuff we just don't want in there. Like even on the Amazon boxes, you got to take the tape off and whatnot in order for any of this stuff to like really work for us.
And how about that greasy pizza box that hurts my
And
feelings that I can't recycle? Can I compost it?
I don't nothing greasy, nothing saucy, none of
Okay.
that stuff. It doesn't go in my pile. Some people will still compost a lot of these things that we're talking about, but that's why it has to be so custom made for you. In
Right.
order for it's are you growing something out of it? Do you just want to get rid of the trash? If you just want to get rid of trash, why not? If you're not feeding worms, why not? And that's one of the things where we have some flexibility. But if you're trying to grow peas or carrots or something that's actually gonna like feed people out of, that's up to you. I don't want manure of any type in my pile. But I'm in Pinellas County. We can't afford to have like everybody having compost pile with manure in it and it flowing when it floods and it washing off into our waterways. And that's why I say this is a safe pile to use because it doesn't have no meat, so no pathogens to worry about. Classroom quality compost, I'd say that. Nothing that's going to make you sick or kids sick. So it's good for something for like the family to do. Even the rotten stuff, the stuff that's in there decaying, I mean, at no point should your compost pile smell like garbage.
Right.
And another
And
reason,
this keeps my fridge from smelling like garbage too, because every time I start to get some questionable looking stuff in the fridge, I can go out there and hide it in the dirt and it's all
yeah,
done.
yeah, that's what I mean, and that's the thing is if you put meat in your compost pile, then you might wake up and coyotes be around. You have to be mindful of these things. But again, it's your pile, my pile, and the reason I say no bread or dairy, the worms they don't like it, but they draw gnats like you wouldn't believe. So I have another recipe for bread. You can take a bunch of leaves and coffee grounds. I get like those big bags of coffee grounds from Starbucks. They'll give them to you, and that's a secret ingredient for like the compost pot. Worms love it. They'll sit up there and eat it forever. And that's what makes this stuff special. All the stuff we're throwing away and sending to the landfill, if you look at the picture of that stuff, it used to be a ton of stuff. We're talking like a couple 1,000 pounds of stuff. It loses volume during the 20 days or the month that we're doing the compost pile. So it'll start off real big and fluffy, and then it loses all this volume, and that's what we want. So you don't have the storage concerns of a lot of places, which is another reason I like the 1 month method, hot composting versus months and months of cold composting.
Right. And see, I'm the lazy composter in this equation. So what I have is a compost pile that I like to call my layered gardening. So I just throw down food scraps and then throw leaves and dirt over it and throw down. And I've been doing that for probably about a year or two. And now it's just I mean, just black gold. It just couldn't be more
Yeah.
perfect. And I never did a single thing to it. So for all of you lazy gardeners out there, if you just want to throw your scraps in a pile and throw some dirt on them, you got to wait it out and you got to have some room. But it'll turn into compost too. Now, I'd like to be the much more active one, like Ken there, out there turning and getting that compost going so fast.
But actually, that's the thing about it, that we need that flexibility. I'm at home all the time. So this thing that people are new to, trying to be, something, I've been doing it at SPC for the last 6 years. This is something with us staying at home and something to do. So I have the time to mess with compost. And so, but then
Right.
to take some worms and do it like what you were doing, I would highly recommend somebody with a busy schedule take some worms and throw it in that compost, and you don't have to mess with the pile like you have, and still they'll live in your and be happy.
I'm definitely got some red wigglers on order. Can you tell us again the guy that you recommended?
It's Uncle Jim's Worm
Uncle
Farm.
Jim's, yeah.
Uncle Jim's, and I have some European night crawlers. That's why I like the picture of the bucket, the 5-gallon fisherman's bucket where you keep your live bait in there. We can use that to make compost tea, but for the most part, the European night crawlers, I mean, if you can find fresh water to fish in, they're great for fishing, and they'll stay in the bucket for months, just in a regular bucket, no water, just a bucket and some compost. And so you can go fishing with them, let them eat all your garbage, and then take them on that trip fishing. So they're versatile. The red wigglers are nice for the small stuff, but for the big stuff, we have the night crawlers, and that's why you'll see I'll have most of the night crawlers living outside in that compost pile in the backyard, because it'll be a lot of them, and they double in quantity every 90 days. You start off with 1,000 of them. 3 months later, you've got a couple of thousand. I mean, they just multiply. But my eggshells, one thing about it, when you talk about putting eggshells in the compost pile, I'll make my cornbread and I'll throw the eggshells in there for 5 minutes just to kill potential salmonella. Because if you put something contaminated in either the compost pile or a worm bin, then you're looking to contaminate whatever you grow. Just throw the eggshells in the oven for just to the crisp. We're only putting it in there. I grind it up to a powder, basically a powder, and put it over the worm pile, and that's what makes you have a lot of worms. Is they're taking those eggshells, and the worms that I have now, a year ago. These are worms just been hanging out for the last year. I promise I hadn't fed one in 6 months.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you just said we could take our trash and a fishing pole and make a whole dinner with a little bit of time here.
Yes.
Between our two ideas, potatoes and fish and even some greens, I think we've got a good plan here, guys. So we'd love to see you all. Thank you so much, Ken, for sharing with us. We'd love to see you all, students, friends, anyone else. We'd love to see your pics and stories of your compost and your vermiculture piles, your upcycled planters, your scrap gardens. I'd love to see what you make. Share it with your friends. Let's inspire people to stay positive and stay working towards our future and making a positive impact. We appreciate you. Take care.